Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to this video. I had an idea because I was about to look for the next book to read after I finish the one I'm currently reading. And I was like, what am I in the mood for? Don't know yet. So here we are with some mood specified book recommendations. I have split the books I'm going to recommend into 4 different moods. I will put the timestamps in the description just in case you're like looking for one specific mood. Then you can skip to that. And I have like 3 to 4 books in each category that I'm going to recommend to you. I will very, very briefly tell you what they're about. I hope there's like something for everybody in here, and if not, then I will happily make a part 2. If you have a specific mood that you're like, I want to read a book like that, tell me in the comments. Let's get right into it with the first little stack. I have named this mood whimsical, magical, feel-good books, because I feel like they just fit the season we're having currently. They fit it so well, and these were the first few that came to my head when I thought about this kind of mood, because I love reading books like that. I'm not always in the mood for it, but sometimes you just want something to make you like feel good and for it to be like sprinkled with a little fairy dust. All right, let's start with the first one. It's actually a classic. This is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Most of you have probably already read this, but just in case you haven't, this is the perfect time to do it. He has pride, she has prejudice. They're like, it's Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. It's just, it's so good. It's perfect. It's not magical, but it is like, it does make you feel good. It's just a book that makes you feel good. I know it's kind of long, and this like, it looks much longer than the English version because this is a German version. Yeah. Just in case you haven't read Pride and Prejudice in your reading life yet, do it. That was a very quick one. I feel like it's a bit difficult to like get into the whole story because it's just something that you have to experience for yourself. Let's move on to the second one that I have chosen for this category, which is A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. I read this at the beginning of this year, I think, in January if I'm not mistaken. So I have talked about this in a video already. So basically what this is about is our little witch, Mariel. I'm sorry I had to look. It's been a while. Mariel, who is a witch, and she's very, very good at like nature and garden magic, but not very good at any other magical discipline. So when she's practicing, she kind of messes up and accidentally summons our demon Ozroth, or Oz, short. So the demon's task, basically, is to make a bargain with the witch or human or whoever summoned them to get their soul and do something in return for them. But Mariel's like, I summoned you on accident. I don't want to make a bargain. I'm sorry, please leave. But he can't, because he can't leave without making a bargain. So now she has this demon with her, and they, to like explain why this man is always with her, start to fake date. That is the book. It is really cute. It is very whimsical, magical. And I think this fits the mood perfectly. Then the next one, I have 2 from the same author, which is TJ Klune, and I have The House in the Cerulean Sea and Under the Whispering Door. First of all, can I just say that I hate that they are different formats? Like, whoever decided we're gonna change the format of the book in between, like, the 2 books coming out, I just don't like that. The House in the Cerulean Sea is so cute, so whimsical, because we have this little house. It's an orphanage with magical children, and we have our main character Linus Baker, who has to go to that orphanage and like check up on them and see how everything's going and see if it's like running well. And then he gets to know the owner of the orphanage and like the kind of the guardian of all the children, Arthur. And they start to form a kind of relationship, and then he's there and meets all the children, and we have like, I think the most prominent child that the story's about is the Antichrist. That's what I'm gonna say. It's cute though. It's very cute. It's so lovely. I have no words. And then Under the Whispering Door has in itself kind of a profound and emotional theme, but it's done in a way that is just really cute, I thought. So we have Wallace, who dies. And then like instead of going into the afterworld or whatever, wherever you go, he ends up in a little tea shop, which is this little cute little thing here, where he has to like stay until he's ready to go and move on into his like afterlife. It teaches you so many things just about life and how we should live it and whatever. It's really lovely, and both of these have some like LGBTQ romance in them, which personally I really enjoy. And it's done in such a cute way. So yeah, this one, and Pride and Prejudice. If you're looking for something whimsical, magical, feel good for spring. All right, next category I would call cozy, reading it next to a fireplace with a blanket and a cup of tea or hot chocolate. So I have 3 books in this category. The first one is And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is my favorite Agatha Christie book that I've read so far. I do prefer it over The Orient Express, even though I really like The Orient Express, but this is even better. This is a cozy murder mystery where there are like 10 strangers mysteriously invited to this island, and one by one they start dying. So everybody's like, obviously has to be someone on the island, but who? How do we find out what is going on? And so on. It is phenomenal. So good. Such a good like book to read, snuggled up in a blanket next to a fireplace. Any Agatha Christie would go with that mood, I would say, but this is just my favorite. Moving on to another like very classic detective story or stories, Sherlock Holmes, and this is like The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. I think there are 4 standalone novels, and then 4 case collections. Choose any which one you like. I have this one because I think this is 12 cases, and I really like that like each case is not super long. It's not like a whole book. So it's really like easy to like fly through it or to just like read one case at a time. I feel like lots of people know Sherlock Holmes. Obviously, you know a lot of the stories. You know it from BBC, you know as Benedict Cumberbatch, you know him from Robert Downey Jr. or whoever played Sherlock, Henry Cavill. And if you've never read the original stories, I feel like you should, because it just makes everything so much better if you recognize stuff from the books in the like adaptations. It's so good, and it is perfect for this mood, obviously. All right, last book in this category is called Pandora. This is historical fiction, and it is about Dora Blake, I think is her name. She lives with her uncle in an antique shop. And she is a jewelry designer, or she hasn't really yet had the chance to design a lot of her own jewelry. She's just drawing her designs that she has in her head. She finds her uncle is behaving a bit suspiciously, generally. So she is like starting to investigate a little bit into what is actually going on with this shop that belonged to her parents, and at some point she's gonna have to take over and wants to like restore it. And she has help from our main male guy, Edward. So this has some like mythological themes, but also kind of an investigating theme. And there's like a little tiny bit of like underlying romance, but it's not heavy at all in the story, and I really enjoyed that. So it's not a romance novel. It's not. I really enjoyed this, especially as like kind of a retelling. It's not really a retelling of Pandora's Box, but it's like obviously with obvious like nudges to that story, and I really enjoyed this, and I think this is perfect for like a cozy fireplace scenario. So the next category, or the next mood, is something I don't have that reading mood a lot, but I feel like when I'm in that mood, I don't really know what to read or what to tackle, because this is like I want to read a classic, or I want to like tackle one of the classic books that I have, one of the classics on my shelf that I just haven't yet had the chance to tackle. I want the feeling of, oh, I'm reading a classic. I'm reading something like with a lot of literary value, but it's not so difficult and dense to understand that I can't enjoy the reading experience. So this is like, I want to read a classic, but don't make it too difficult, if that makes sense. I have 4 books in this category. So I have The Phantom of the Opera. I read this year. I finally read this. And like, you go into it knowing this is gonna be fantastic. And I did think it was fantastic. So it's very difficult to explain in short, but in short, we have the Paris Opera House that is apparently haunted by some opera ghost. We have our main character, or female character and singer, Christine, who who's kind of discovered, her voice is discovered, and she gets to sing, and gets in a kind of weird-ish relationship with the opera ghost. And this book is a combination of a detective story of like an incident that happened, and we're trying to figure out, is there an opera ghost? If so, who is it? What is it? What is going on? It's a love story. It is just beautifully like atmospheric. Music is like a great theme in here. It's we're in the Paris, underneath the Paris Opera House. Do I need to say more? Basically, what I want to tell you is read The Phantom of the Opera, because it's fantastic. Same goes for book number two, The Picture of Dorian Gray. I will take each and every excuse to recommend The Picture of Dorian Gray, because it is one of my favorite, if not my favorite book of all time. It is so beautifully written. I have no words. This is about Dorian Gray, who gets a portrait painted of himself because everybody is telling him, and he starts to like really know it and feel it and believe it, that he is just gorgeous. He is beautiful. And over time, people start to notice that he is not like losing any of that outside beauty, of that grace, of his appearance is just the same. Years later, decades later, he still looks like he did when he's in his 20s. His personal like fall into cruelty and violence and like bad things that happen to his soul, that happens because his soul is turning into a very dark thing, and he's becoming a very, very evil person. You can't see any of that on him, but instead of him, his portrait is showing what he really is like. That concept in itself is wow. Oscar Wilde, so good. And then the the language, the descriptions. I don't usually like this very descriptive books because I find it very boring. It's so beautifully done in here. It's so, so beautiful. I have no other words for this. Read it. All right, the next book is A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. This is a book where I'm gonna say I did expect to not like it. I expected to be bored because this is about war. And I don't like books about war because I'm like, it just doesn't interest me a lot. I tend to not like these books. This one though, yes. Yes, yes, yes. This is about Ernest Hemingway's own experiences from the First World War. He is obviously not writing about him, like he's writing about himself, but he's not a character in the book. And he meets an English nurse, army nurse, Catherine, and they form a relationship. And then it's basically about him going through that war with her, with all the other people in their army and whatever, and what happens to them. But it's not boring and it's not difficult to read because it's not a super old classic. So yeah, I'm surprised to say this, but I really like this. I really, really do. Last book in this category, The Secret History. This probably gives off the vibes that I was talking about here the most. This is longer than it looks. Like, the pages are so thin. This is over 600, almost 700 pages long. You need to be emotionally prepared for this. But, and I've heard a lot of people who don't really like this. I love this. This is a group of students who study classics, and under the influence of their classics professor, they start to have a very, very strange and new view on life. They start doing crazy things. That's really the only way to describe it, because I don't want to go into more detail. Because that would all be spoilers, but I would categorize this as the prime dark academia, because it's about them studying classics and ancient Greek and Latin and all that. It just gives you the perfect vibe of classics literature. Bit crazy and wild, but kind of like that. On to the last category that I would call very twisty, more psychological, darker themed books. Sometimes you just want to read a book where afterward you just go what did I just read? But also, why did I kind of like it? Let's start with If We Were Villains, because that fits The Secret History quite well, because I feel like this has a lot of similarities with this. It's also about a group of students who are studying to be actors. They have a very specific character and role distribution that they always do in any play. This guy is always the hero, this guy's always the villain, she's always the temptress and whatever. And for their fourth year at university, the casting is switched up, and it kind of creates a lot of tension in the group, and it sweeps over into real life, and quite a few tragic things happen, and the plot is twisting and turning. So I feel like that has quite a lot of similarities with The Secret History. So if you've maybe already read The Secret History and you liked it, you're gonna like this one too. All right, I have 2 books left, and I'm gonna continue with the Iliac Crest. I don't really know how to describe that book, because I feel like this is something you have to experience yourself. I will say I didn't love this book, because it was something. I feel like this would maybe I would enjoy it more if I would read it again. It's that much of a what in the heck did I just read kind of book. This is about a man, possibly our guy main character. We never actually know his name. who opens the door randomly one evening, and then there's like one after the other, there's two women coming to his house who are telling him, we know your secret. We know you are actually a woman. And from there, we are following him, like, going a little bit insane because he's like, no, I'm not. It is such a strange book, but also I'm reading it and I'm like, you have to come up with this. Like, you have to come up with this idea. And it's actually kind of great, but also so weird and like messes with my head a lot. So if that's what you're looking for, this is a great book for that. Last book for this mood, and also last book of the video, The Ice Palace by Tarjei Vesaas. I hope I did not completely butcher that. This is quite an emotional book. This book is about two little girls. I think they're around 10 years old. And one of them has just like moved to that town, and in the town they have this great huge waterfall that is frozen, or like partly frozen at the moment. They call that the Ice Palace because you can like go into the little crevices of the ice and you could technically like walk through it, and it's just so majestic. That entire landscaping of this story was so gorgeous. Un just moved to town and is like having difficulties making friends, except for Sis, who's already living in that town, and they become really great friends, and they have kind of a strange friendship because it's so close and intimate so fast. And then one day Un just does not show up to school. She doesn't come back home. She is lost in the Ice Palace. This takes it like, this takes your emotions and does this with them. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but very, very emotional, and kind of has a lot of darker themes. So be prepared for that if you go into this, but I did think it was absolutely gorgeous, and maybe a better read for winter, but definitely if you want to feel like that, maybe this is the book for you. As I said, if you have any more like specific book requests or mood requests that you want a recommendation for or whatever, write a comment. I might do a part 2 anyways if I come up with a bit more moods, because that was a bit difficult already to kind of put into words what the feeling of a book I'm craving. Have a great day, have a great morning, night, evening, wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.